The moment you didn't see coming. Something is shifting, and you can feel it even if you can't explain it. There's a quiet tension in your chest, like life is holding its breath. What if I told you, the thing you've been waiting for isn't coming the way you expect? It won't arrive with warnings. It won't look the way you imagined. And when it happens, it will change everything. The truth they never told you. You were never meant to follow a predictable path. That's why things never felt normal for you. While others settled, you questioned. While others blended in, you felt different. And deep down, you knew there was a reason. Why you feel different. This isn't confusion, it's awareness. You see things others overlook. You feel energy in situations others ignore. You sense when something isn't right, even when everyone else accepts it. That's not a flaw, that's a signal. The weight of awareness. Being aware comes with a cost. You notice patterns, you see intentions. You recognize truths people would rather hide. And sometimes that makes life heavier. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. The isolation no one understands. You felt alone in rooms full of people. Like you're speaking a language no one else understands. You've tried to explain, but they look at you differently. So you stay quiet. But silence doesn't erase what you know. The resistance you faced. Have you ever wondered why things seemed harder for you? Why every step forward came with resistance? It's not random. The moment you begin to awaken, pressure follows. Because growth is never comfortable. The suppression you didn't notice. From a young age, you were told to fit in. To think like everyone else, to act like everyone else. But something in you resisted. Even when you tried to conform, it never felt right. Because you weren't designed to blend in. The awakening begins quietly. It doesn't start with a loud moment. It starts with a question. Then another. Then suddenly, your entire perspective begins to shift. And nothing looks the same anymore. The signs you're chosen. You've been through things that should have broken you. But somehow you're still here. You've lost people, opportunities, clarity. Yet something inside you kept pushing forward. That resilience is not normal, it's intentional. The struggle before the shift. Right before something changes, everything feels uncertain. Doors close, plans fall apart. You question everything. But what feels like loss is often preparation. Because something new is trying to enter your life. The unexpected opportunity. And then it happens. Not how you planned, not when you expected. An opportunity appears out of nowhere. It doesn't make complete sense at first. But something inside you says, this is it. Why it feels unfamiliar. The opportunity won't look comfortable. It may challenge you, stretch you. It might even scare you. Because it's taking you somewhere you've never been. Growth always feels unfamiliar. The test hidden inside it. This is where most people hesitate. They overthink, they doubt. They wait for certainty that never comes. But this moment is a test. Will you trust what you feel, or retreat to what's safe? The fear that tries to stop you. Fear will speak loudly. It will remind you of every failure. Every moment you weren't enough. It will tell you to stay where you are. Because fear hates transformation. The voice you must listen to. But beneath the fear, there's another voice. Quieter, steady, certain. It doesn't scream, it doesn't panic. It simply knows. And that voice is guiding you. The path you were meant for. This opportunity isn't random. It's connected to everything you've been through. Every struggle, every delay, every lesson. They were shaping you for this moment. Nothing was wasted. The courage to step forward. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to take the step. Clarity doesn't come before action. It comes because of it. Movement creates understanding. The life waiting on the other side. There's a version of you you haven't met yet. Stronger, clearer, unshaken. But that version only exists beyond this decision, beyond this opportunity. You can't reach it by staying the same. The regret of ignoring it. If you ignore this moment, life will continue. But something inside you will always wonder, what if I had taken that chance? What if I had trusted myself? That question doesn't fade easily. The power of alignment. When you say yes to what's meant for you, things begin to shift. Not instantly, not perfectly. But gradually, doors start opening. Connections start forming. And you begin to feel aligned. The strength you've built. You didn't come this far by accident. Everything you endured built you for this. The patience, the pain, the persistence. It all created a version of you ready for more. Even if you don't fully see it yet. The truth about your journey. Your path was never supposed to be easy. It was meant to wake you up, to push you beyond comfort, to show you who you really are. And now you're starting to understand. The moment of decision. This is where everything changes. Not because the world shifts, but because you do. Because you decide to move differently, to think differently, to act differently. The responsibility of awareness. Once you see the opportunity, you can't ignore it. You can delay, you can doubt. But deep down, you know it's there. And knowing creates responsibility. To either rise or remain where you are. The breakthrough you've been waiting for. The breakthrough isn't coming from outside. It's coming from your decision. From your willingness to step into uncertainty. From your courage to trust yourself. That's where everything begins. The life you deserve. Not a perfect life, but a meaningful one. A life where you're not pretending, not shrinking, not hiding, but fully stepping into who you are. The truth you needed to hear. You're not behind. You're not lost. You're not broken. You're being positioned for something you didn't see coming. The final realization. That unexpected opportunity isn't random. It's the answer to everything you've been feeling. Everything you've been questioning. Everything you've been preparing for. And now it's here. The choice is yours. You can ignore it, or you can step into it. But understand this. Moments like this don't come often. And they don't wait forever. The awakening call. If this message found you, it wasn't by accident. There's something in you that recognizes the truth. Don't silence it, don't ignore it. This is your moment to rise. To finally trust what you feel. If you feel this, don't scroll past it. Take a second, acknowledge it. Drop a comment and say, I'm ready, if you know this message was meant for you. Like this video so more people who feel lost can find clarity. And subscribe to Return to Awakening, because this is only the beginning of what you're about to step into, the silence before expansion. There's a strange quiet that comes before everything changes. Not peace but stillness. Like the world is waiting for you to decide. And in that silence, you start to hear yourself more clearly. Not the noise, not the fear, but the truth. The feeling you can't shake. It keeps coming back, doesn't it? That pull, that curiosity, that inner nudge. You try to ignore it, distract yourself, delay it. But it doesn't leave. Because it's not just a thought, it's direction. The misunderstood path. If you tried to explain this to most people, they wouldn't get it. They'd tell you to be realistic, to stay safe, to follow what's already proven. but your path was never meant to be understood by everyone. That's why it feels so lonely at times. The pressure to stay the same. There are invisible forces that want you unchanged. Not because they hate you, but because your growth challenges their comfort. When you evolve, it reminds others of what they're avoiding. And not everyone is ready to face that. The moment you almost gave up. Be honest, there was a moment you nearly quit. When the weight felt too much. When nothing made sense anymore. When you questioned if any of this was even worth it. But you didn't walk away, and that matters more than you realize. The strength you don't acknowledge. You've survived things you rarely talk about. Battles no one saw. Moments where you had to rebuild yourself quietly. And even now you downplay it. But that strength is exactly why you're here. The opportunity hidden in chaos. Sometimes the opportunity doesn't arrive peacefully. It comes disguised as disruption. A sudden change, a loss, a redirection. Something that forces you out of what was familiar and pushes you toward what's necessary. The redirection you didn't expect. What you thought was the plan starts to fall apart. Not because you failed, but because it was never the final destination. You were being guided, even when it felt like things were going wrong. Even when it didn't make sense. The doors that closed. Think about everything that didn't work out. Every rejection, every delay, every no. At the time, it felt like defeat. But now look closer. What if those closed doors were protection? The new door appears. And just when you least expect it, something opens. A conversation, an idea, a connection. A path you never considered before. And suddenly, you feel that spark again. That quiet certainty. The moment of recognition. You don't fully understand it, but something in you recognizes it. Like you've been here before, in a different way. Like this moment was always coming. And now it's finally in front of you. The doubt that follows. Right after clarity, doubt creeps in. What if I'm wrong? What if this doesn't work? What if I lose everything? That voice is loud, but it's not truth. The difference between fear and intuition. Fear is chaotic, it rushes, it panics. Intuition is calm, it doesn't argue. It doesn't need to prove anything. It simply points and waits. Learning the difference changes everything. The leap that feels impossible. There comes a point where thinking isn't enough. Where analyzing won't give you the answer. Where you have to move without guarantees. And that step feels impossible. Until you take it. The shift begins internally. The real transformation doesn't start outside. It starts in how you see yourself. How you speak to yourself. How you choose despite uncertainty. That's where the shift begins. The identity you must release. You can't carry your old self into your next level. The doubts, the limitations, the fear-based thinking. They won't survive where you're going. Something has to be left behind. And that something might be who you used to believe you were. The power of letting go. Letting go isn't weakness. It's alignment. It's choosing growth over comfort. Truth over illusion. Purpose over fear. The version of you that emerges. As you step forward, something changes. You start thinking differently. Reacting differently, moving differently. Not because you're forcing it, but because you're evolving. The reality you begin to attract. When you shift internally, your external world follows. Not instantly, but consistently. You start noticing different opportunities. Different people, different outcomes. Because you're no longer operating from the same place. The responsibility of growth. Growth isn't just about gaining more. It's about becoming more aware. more intentional, more disciplined. Because once you step into this path, there's no going back to who you were. The loneliness of expansion. Not everyone will come with you. Some will misunderstand. Some will distance themselves. And some will never see the version of you you're becoming. And that's part of the journey. The clarity that replaces confusion. What once felt uncertain starts to make sense. Not all at once, but piece by piece. You begin to see why things happen the way they did. Why the delays were necessary. The timing you question. You thought you were late. You thought you missed your chance. But now you see. If it had happened earlier, you wouldn't have been ready. This timing is precise. The opportunity expands. What started small begins to grow. What felt uncertain becomes clearer. And what once scared you now excites you. Because you're no longer the same person who first saw it. You've grown into it. The truth about being chosen. Being chosen isn't about being special. It's about being willing. Willing to see, to grow, to change. To step into something greater, even when it's uncomfortable. That's what sets you apart. The final push forward. You're closer than you think. Closer than it feels. But the final step always requires courage. That last push, where you stop hesitating. And finally move with certainty. The energy of commitment. Once you commit, everything shifts. Your focus sharpens. Your actions align. And the path begins to reveal itself more clearly. Because now you're all in, the point where there's no turning back. There comes a moment when you realize you can't go back to who you were. Even if you tried, it wouldn't feel right anymore. The old mindset feels too small. The old habits feel forced. Because something inside you has already shifted. And once that shift happens, there's no revering it. The inner conflict you must face. Part of you wants to move forward. But another part still clings to what's familiar. That internal tension, it's real. It's the battle between comfort and growth. And only one of them can lead your future. The illusion of safety. Staying where you are feels safe, but it's not. It's just predictable. Real risk isn't always in moving forward. Sometimes the biggest risk is staying stuck. Because nothing grows there. The break in your old reality. You start seeing things differently now. Situations that once made sense no longer do. People you once connected with feel distant. It's not that anything is wrong. It's that you've outgrown the version of life you were living. The unexpected shift in perspective. Suddenly things click. Not because someone explained it to you, but because you experienced it. Your awareness expands, and you begin to understand what you couldn't before. The energy you carry now. You're not the same person you were months ago. Your energy has changed. Your presence feels different. People notice it, even if they can't explain it. Because transformation leaves a trace. The opportunities that start finding you. It's not just you searching anymore. Now, things are starting to find you. Conversations happen at the right time. Ideas come out of nowhere. Doors open without force. The alignment you begin to feel. For the first time, things feel right. Not perfect, but aligned. There's less resistance, less confusion. More clarity, more direction. And that feeling is powerful. The doubt that tries one last time. Just when things start aligning, doubt returns. One final attempt to pull you back. To make you question everything again. But this time it feels different. Because now you see through it. The strength of your awareness. You don't react the same anymore. You observe, you understand. You don't let fear control your decisions. Because you've learned, it doesn't tell the truth. Awareness has changed your response, the decision that defines you. This is where your path is solidified. Not in a big dramatic moment, but in a quiet decision. A choice to trust yourself fully, without needing validation. The power of self-trust. When you trust yourself, everything changes. You stop second-guessing every move. You stop looking for approval. You start moving with certainty. And that confidence opens doors. The new standards you set. You no longer accept what drains you. You no longer tolerate what limits you. Your standards rise. Not out of ego, but out of self-respect. The life that starts reflecting you. Your outer world begins to mirror your inner growth. Not because of luck, but because you've changed what you allow, what you pursue, what you believe. And life responds to that. The unexpected becoming normal. What once felt impossible becomes your reality. Opportunities that seemed out of reach show up naturally. Situations you used to fear, you now handle with ease. Because you've grown into this version of yourself. Step by step. The people who recognize your growth. Some will start to see you differently. They'll notice the shift, the confidence, the clarity. Some will be inspired. Others uncomfortable. But either way, they'll know you've changed. The detachment from the past. You don't carry old pain the same way anymore. It doesn't define you. It doesn't control you. It becomes something you learned from, not lived in. And that freedom is powerful. The focus that drives you forward. You're no longer distracted by everything. Your energy is directed, intentional. You know what matters now. And you protect your focus. Because you understand its value. The discipline behind growth. It's not just about feeling motivated. It's about consistency. Showing up even when it's hard. Choosing growth even when it's uncomfortable. That's what creates real change. The reality of your potential. You're starting to see what you're capable of. Not in theory, but in action. And it surprises you. Because you underestimated yourself for so long. Now you're proving yourself wrong. The expansion of your vision. Your goals begin to evolve. What you wanted before feels smaller now. Not because it wasn't important, but because you've grown beyond it. Your vision expands with you. The confidence that feels different. This isn't loud confidence. It's quiet, steady, certain. You don't need to prove anything. You just know who you are. And that knowing is enough. The final layer of fear. There's always one last layer. One final hesitation. Not because you're unready, but because you're stepping into something bigger than before. And that requires courage. The moment you fully step in. And then it happens. You stop holding back. You stop questioning every move. You step into it fully. And everything shifts. The reality you create. From this point forward, things are different. Not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because you've changed how you show up. And that changes everything around you. More than you realize. The truth you now understand. That unexpected opportunity. It wasn't just a chance. It was a turning point. A moment designed to shift your entire path. And you answered it. The path that continues to unfold. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of something deeper. More challenges, more growth, more expansion. But now you're ready. Because you've already proven it to yourself, the new level you've entered. You can feel it, even if you can't explain it. Life doesn't respond to you the same way anymore. Situations unfold differently. People react to you differently. because you're no longer operating from your old level. The awareness that separates you. You notice things faster now. Patterns, intentions, energy shifts. What once confused you is now clear. And that clarity creates distance between you and the average mindset. Not by force, but by evolution. The responsibility of knowing. When you didn't know, you could hesitate. You could doubt, you could delay. But now you see too much to pretend. You understand too deeply to ignore it. And that awareness comes with responsibility. The decisions that carry weight. Every choice now feels more intentional, more precise. You're not just reacting anymore. You're choosing with awareness. And those choices begin shaping a completely different reality. The internal stability you've built. Chaos doesn't shake you like it used to. Pressure doesn't break you the same way. Because you've built something solid within. A calm that doesn't depend on circumstances. And that calm becomes your power. The detachment from external validation. You no longer need constant approval. You don't rely on others to confirm your worth. Because you've already faced yourself. You've already questioned everything. And you came out with clarity. The opportunities that require more from you. Now the opportunities are different. Bigger, more demanding. They ask more from you. More focus, more discipline, more commitment. Because you're capable of more now. The growth that feels uncomfortable again. Just when you thought you found stability. Growth challenges you again. New fears, new uncertainties. But this time, you recognize the pattern. Discomfort means expansion. The cycle you begin to understand. Breakdown, then breakthrough. Confusion, then clarity. Discomfort, then growth. You've lived it enough times now to see it clearly. And that understanding changes how you move through it. The patience you've developed. You're not rushing the process anymore. You're not forcing outcomes. You're allowing things to unfold while still taking action. That balance is something most people never reach. But you're learning it. The energy you protect. You've become selective. Not everyone gets access to you anymore. Not every situation deserves your time. Because you understand, your energy creates your reality. And you guard it carefully. The focus that sharpens your path. Distractions don't hold the same power. You see them for what they are. You stay aligned with your direction. Even when it's tempting to drift. Because now you know where you're going. The inner voice that leads you. That quiet voice, it's stronger now. Clearer, more consistent. You trust it without questioning everything. Because it's never led you wrong. Even when you doubted it before. The alignment that feels effortless. Things start flowing in ways you didn't expect. Not because you're forcing them, but because you're aligned with them. Your actions match your purpose. And that alignment creates momentum. The life that begins to reflect your growth. Your environment shifts. Your conversations deepen. Your opportunities expand. Because you've become someone who can hold more. And life responds accordingly. The detachment from old limitations. You don't think the same way anymore. Old fears don't control you. Old beliefs don't define you. You've broken through those layers. And there's no returning to them. The confidence that builds quietly. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to prove it. It shows in how you move. How you speak, how you decide. That quiet confidence speaks for itself. The challenges that test your growth. New levels bring new tests. Situations that push you again. Not to break you, but to confirm your growth. To show you how far you've come. The way you handle pressure now. You don't panic the same way. You don't collapse under stress. You pause, you think, you respond. Because you've trained yourself through experience. And that changes everything. The realization of your progress. Sometimes you stop and look back. At who you used to be. At how you used to think. And it hits you. You're not that person anymore. The gratitude that grounds you. Not everything was easy. Not everything made sense. But it shaped you. Every moment played a role. And now you can see it. The future that feels different. You don't fear it the same way. You don't question it endlessly. You feel ready for it. Not because you know everything, but because you trust yourself. The power of your presence. You don't chase attention. You don't force recognition. But your presence is felt. Because it's real. Because it's grounded. The path that continues expanding. There's always more. More growth, more clarity, more evolution. But now you're not overwhelmed by it. You embrace it. Because it's who you are. The truth you fully accept. You were never meant for an ordinary path. That's why it felt so difficult at times. That's why things didn't align earlier. Because your journey required more from you. And now you understand why. The moment you fully own it. No more hesitation. No more shrinking. No more pretending to be less. You step into it completely. And that changes everything moving forward.